Member for Pascoe Vale.
Thank you, Acting Speaker, and I rise to speak on the Biosecurity Legislation Amendment Incident Response Bill of 2023. And in doing so, I'd like to commend the new Minister for Agriculture, her team and department for bringing this bill to the House, but also the Minister at the table for industry, which this bill relates to just as strongly in terms of jobs and economic development. Acting Speaker, Victoria is Australia's agricultural heartland, with Victorians relying on our farmers and produce every day to produce their food and produce. Our state's agriculture sector is critical to also supporting the socio-economic well-being, of course, of our regional communities and economies. The Victorian Labor government recognises that our farms and agribusinesses are an essential part of a thriving Victoria, particularly for our rural, regional, but also our suburban communities. Because it is across Melbourne's suburbs that much of Victoria's farm produce comes to the plate, and where much of Victoria's agricultural produce is transported to, processed and on-sold for domestic, national and international markets to consume and enjoy. A healthy and vibrant regional Victorian agricultural sector also means a healthy and vibrant local economies and local jobs across Melbourne's suburban cafes, restaurants, food processors and manufacturers, including across the northern suburbs of Melbourne and my communities of Pascoe, Vale, Coburg and Brunswick West, which I'll touch on soon. That is why the Labor government understands that we must continue to strengthen, grow and protect the agricultural sector, namely via maintaining its world-leading reputation, health and vibrancy, including through Victoria's internationally renowned high-quality beef cattle, dairy, sheep, horticultural, cropping and fresh fruit, vegetables and food industries. And that is why, Acting Speaker, this bill is so important. Protecting our agriculture sector from exotic pests, diseases and biosecurity risks is fundamental to securing the well-being of the sector for both regional and our suburban communities. And whilst Australia and Victoria has long had the luxury of distance and being surrounded by vast oceans when it comes to protecting us from foreign pests and disease, our increasing connectedness with the globe via trade, freight and tourism, including via Melbourne Airport, as the member for Greenvale pointed out, means that we must continue to remain ever vigilant to protect our pristine environment, which is the envy of the world, and in doing so protecting our various sectors. Acting Speaker, this bill strengthens Victoria's capability to manage biosecurity risks, including preparing for and responding and recovering to the detection or outbreak of an exotic animal disease, plant disease or pest. The bill supports a public commitment made by the government to improve exotic disease preparedness and response capabilities by ensuring a holistic and effective legislative framework to protect our valuable agricultural sectors. The bill seeks to achieve these outcomes via a number of measures to strengthen emergency management, traceability and enforcement measures, including through amendments to the Livestock Disease Control Act of 1994, amendments to the Livestock Management Act of 2010 and amendments to the Planned Biosecurity Act of 2010. The amendments to the Livestock Disease Control Act of 1994 contain a number of measures, including significantly increasing penalties for offences for the contravention of provisions related to exotic animal diseases and livestock traceability requirements, to underscore the seriousness of these offences and their potential harm that can be inflicted on the community, the environment and the economy. The reforms clarify also the emergency management provisions to enhance efficiency and preparedness and response activities by broadening delegation powers of the Minister to declare control and restricted areas and the sharing of information between jurisdictions and departments. The amendments to the Livestock Management Act of 2010 also double the penalties for offences relating to non-compliance with prescribed biosecurity measures and strengthen the existing framework available to mitigate against biosecurity risks caused by unlawful entry onto agricultural premises. The amendments to the Planned Biosecurity Act 2010 confers the power to the Minister to declare a control area rather than Governor and Council in the event of a planned pest or disease outbreak to help facilitate a timely response to mitigate against any potential risks. When combined, Acting Speaker, these measures will help us continue to protect our state's agricultural sector and natural environment from many exotic pests and diseases. And Acting Speaker, as set out in the Victorian Government's Agriculture Industry Overview of January 2023, the sector continues to play an increasingly major role in terms of economic and jobs production. The agriculture sector contributes $17.5 billion in production to the state. It contributes $17.9 billion in total food and fibre exports for the state. It's made up of 21,600 farm businesses and supports a total of 150,100 agricultural, food and beverage manufacturing jobs across the state. Overall, the sector does contribute directly $16.5 billion towards the state gross product, which makes up 3.5% of our state's GSP. Victoria is also the #1 producer in Australia of table and dried grapes, making up 70% of our production. #1 producer of milk, 5.65 billion litres, or 64% of our national production. #1 Australian producer for sheep meat, making up 47% of national production. Australia's #1 producer for fruit and nuts, making up 35% of national production, and we're also Australia's #1 producer for vegetables, making up 22% of national production. We're proudly also the #1 food and fibre export in Australia, making up 26% of national exports, which consists of dairy products. 73% of our dairy exports come from Victoria. Skin, hides and exports. Wool, 51% of national exports. Animal fibre, contributing 47% of national exports, and 46% of our horticultural exports coming from Victoria. Finally, with prepared foods, such as prepared milk formulas and the like, making up 36% of national exports. But, Acting Speaker, as I said from the outset, while rural and regional Victoria may be the heartland of Australia's agricultural sector, it's our state's manufacturing sector which has long been the vehicle through which the value of our agricultural sector has long been leveraged and maximised. Of the 150,000 jobs associated with the sector, over 82,400 jobs, more than half, are directly associated with manufacturing, food and beverage sector. With our state's overall manufacturing sector home to 30% of the nation's manufacturing output, consisting of $31 billion industry, more than 23,000 firms and employing 260,000 people, it's the health and well-being of agricultural, horticultural, food and fibre producers that are playing an increasingly important role to the future prosperity of the overall manufacturing sector, and particularly across the northern suburbs. And Speaker, I'm glad that the Minister is at the table at the moment to hear a lot of these stats that I'm about to run through. Northlink is a regional economic development and business network group that was established in 1995 and which has long advocated for the manufacturing sector across the north. Executive Director Chris James, who I've spoken with in preparing for this contribution, has informed me that the state's agricultural produce is increasingly playing a major role in driving manufacturing output across the north. And he has stated, and I quote, "Melbourne's north is fast becoming Australia's premier food manufacturing and exporting region, with over 400 manufacturers turning over $1 million or more, and nearly 10,000 of Victoria's 34,000 food manufacturing workers, plus a significant supply chain being located in the north. This includes significant transport and logistics infrastructure such as Melbourne Airport, Melbourne Market, the Hume Freeway, the Ring Road, the Calder Freeway, the proposed future intermodal freight terminals, Somerton and Beveridge, 2 food research universities at La Trobe Uni, 2 TAFEs, the Melbourne Polytechnic and Kangan Batman Institute, the Melbourne Innovation Centre Food Kitchen, and many, many other organisations primed and ready to support the sector to grow. And in this respect, I would particularly like to highlight the work, research and development being led out of La Trobe University in Bundoora, which has over $300 million in assets specifically devoted to agriculture. The Brumby government funded the construction of the $288 million agri-bio facility, which co-houses Agriculture Victoria and La Trobe researchers and students. And the facility undertakes world-leading research to protect Victorians from any range of agricultural threats to the vital industry. This year, La Trobe also self-funded the establishment of the Institute of Sustainable Agriculture and Food, with the university making a $25 million strategic commitment over 5 years to leverage further match funding and support. But it's the key piece of the proposed Australian Food Innovation Centre at La Trobe University, which would see the CSIRO co-locate to the Bundoora campus and join with these significant research assets already on site. The Food Innovation Centre would see the farm-to-plate capacity developed, all located in one place that collaborates with basic research into seeds and grains all the way through to production of food. With La Trobe's world-leading expertise spanning from soil to seed research all the way through again to food manufacturing, which has a strong and long presence across Melbourne's north, there is no other better location to consider than La Trobe Uni for this future centre. But Speaker, along with these future opportunities, also current businesses and workers who do an amazing job across my community to value add to agricultural sector. On the 20th of November last week, I had the absolute pleasure of visiting Vizzy Food Can Manufacturing Factory in Charles Street in North Coburg. Vizzy's food can facility in North Coburg manufactures 1 billion food and drink can ends each year. So when you go to the supermarket and pick up a can of Australian or Victorian manufactured drinks or food, it is more likely than not that in your hands or in your pantry you're actually holding a can that's been made, the top of it, by Vizzy workers in Coburg North. I really want to thank the local workers, including Andrew, Tony and Grant, who provided me with a comprehensive tour by walking the respective assembly lines that they're very proud of, to meet with many of the 130 workers. And Vizzy Coburg North also particularly does provide a lot of can tops for producers in Shepparton, namely. Speaker, building off our rich cultural manufacturing history in my community, we're increasingly becoming home for more food and beverage manufacturer destinations. And earlier this year, for example, I visited Wonder Pies in Newlands Road in North Coburg, one of the newest additions to Coburg's growing food and culinary experience at the new Newlands Quarter, sourcing their incredible produce from Provenir, who are located in Gippsland and recognised as ethical producers. Wonder Pies does an amazing job of producing handcrafted exceptional pies, employing 100 local workers and even producing and supplying to the Australian Grand Prix, Australian Open and other events. I commend Ray Capaldi, the chef, and Jodie Crocker, the CEO. I commend the bill.